formulation or something that they're looking for, and they ask people to produce a result. From the hiring point of view, you don't care about the result. You care about the list of email addresses and the results that they gave. And you give that to the line manager, and they say, okay, that guy's good, that guy's good, that guy's good. Let's go. These are our most wanted. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you, Frank. I like that's a great close slide there. One of the questions, Frank, you skipped over that a little bit earlier because learning the culture, the challenge for all of us to learn that culture. For a lot of people coming in, we are going to send someone in from Boston or Chicago or London or Amsterdam into the country. How do you help them learn this cultural challenge from all of these various things you've gone through before they just feel like they've just been dropped in a big pool of brown stuff?
You just had well, first of all, you have to accept that you are in a big pool of brown stuff. But the main issue, yeah, of course, is you've got it's the culture clash and culture shock. And a lot of managers actually fail massively in China and in every country in the world. We all do this because of the culture. So the trap in China is that when you go there, you see Shanghai and all those fantastic things, and you think that everything has changed and it's just going to be like the States or wherever you come from. And it's not. The hardware in China has changed, but the software has not. Inside here, people are still the same. So there are specific solutions for this. One of it is cross-cultural training. There are a lot of cross-cultural training companies in China right now trying to show people what face is, how people approach tasks and so on, and trying to find a solution to this. I'm not so sure that anybody's really found the perfect solution. But that's the practical way of doing it. But the main way is just to live it and learn and be open. If you have a tolerance for ambiguity, you'll do okay in China. If you don't, you won't.
Any questions for Frank? Yeah. Somebody? No. Can I ask you one, Danielle? Have you been on to Frank's TV program? You know,
I haven't.
It looks like an interview ahead there.
Yes, there is an open invitation for anybody who wants to be on it. It's focused on HR, so it's definitely a way of promoting, and you definitely have something to offer because there's something there for us to talk about. Yeah.
So, how many of you are actually recruiting in China right now? All right. Okay. So, Richard, I mean, does this feel familiar to you from the challenges your organization is facing?
I'm looking at it from a distance. So I'm not in the day-to-day of it, but I know we've got an active program.
All right. Anyone else? Yeah.
Just putting some things in context for me in terms of the pushback I'm getting from the recruitment team on the ground in Beijing around just the use of the tracking system and the flow of candidates. And the argument there is that they don't want to. Their argument is that candidates have no tolerance for inputting data. They just want to send an email. And so that's a real hard challenge in terms of getting use of the applicant tracking system so that we can measure, so that we can improve. And I don't know if you can comment on that. It's putting it in context would give a specific comment.
I think there's two sides to this. One is the candidate side, which I think they're not necessarily wrong about, and one is the HR side. The HR side, people in China within HR generally don't like metrics. They don't necessarily like transparency either, because if you imagine the way that people operate, things tend to be fudged, and the communitarian spirit, if you like, the teamwork means that with FACE is that nobody ever really wants to tell somebody that they're not working very well. So you kind of do this privately, and then you have the meeting where you say everything's going great. So the ATS is a bit of a challenge in China. I know I've been through that process myself because I built them many years ago. And I had a complete pushback against it because when I mentioned transparency, metrics and so on, they just went, no, get away, evil person. From the candidate point of view, I think there is a valid argument that they will not fill it out. But at the same time, you could argue that the candidates who are not interested will not fill out the application. For the big companies, like the Microsofts, for instance, they do fill it out because they want to work there. The companies in the mid-size or the Mittelstand, if you like, they have a problem because they don't have such a strong brand. But the solution to that, I think, in many cases, is to add in an extra step. which is what we do. You take in the information by email, and then you put it in yourself. Which is what people will do for customer service for senior level candidates who will not apply to a job online. They would never do that. The search company will normally take the information and put it into their own system manually. And I think in China you have to do that with a lot of candidates because they have many jobs in front of them, so they just simply can't be bothered. But the good thing about it is if you have a process whereby where they can fill it in, you can be more sure that they are interested in your job. But the danger is that they will scare people off. The other problem is with the applicant tracking system is that they tend to be a bit slow in China because a lot of the servers are actually based in Silicon Valley or Singapore and so on. That's getting much better now. Recruitment advertising and recruitment branding is relatively new. There are only a couple of players who've come in the last year or two, seriously. Before that, it simply wasn't an issue. That's another problem with the ATS as well. Is that you have so few applicants. You don't need an applicant tracking process because you don't have that many applicants. So recruitment branding hasn't been such a big issue in the sense that you don't have 2,000 candidates. So there's nothing for a recruitment advertising company or whatever to work with because a lot of the advertising produces very small numbers of candidates. But the companies are coming in now, and there's a couple of players doing some fairly, they're starting off doing fairly serious things. We saw that with Microsoft here, obviously, doing that.
Frank, are there companies in China that are successful but don't compete really on the salary and that kind of stuff, that think out of the box and try to do a different approach, because it's kind of battle. A lot of companies will lose, so another way to think about it is do it another way. Do you have examples of companies who are successful?
I don't have examples of people doing things out of the box. That's what I'm trying to help people to do myself. So generally people do the same old. Because a lot of the people who are running the processes have not seen new ideas. I mean, there are some great ideas that you can have using MySpace or LinkedIn or Facebook, and you can start using ideas and sending people off iPods and so on and giving them things. But there's such a cost focus in China that new ideas are not necessarily so welcome because they cost a lot of money. So some of the bigger companies are doing things. For instance, some of the companies have applied to get these employer of choice rankings within Asia Pacific, so that there are various like competitions or whatever, and the Ritz-Carlton hotel has won the employer of choice for the last 4 or 5 years, or at least the last 2 anyway. And so that's not really innovative, but it's a great idea because it gets them up that they can sell themselves as an employer of choice and so on. But in innovative ideas, I think not quite yet. But I'm looking forward to with these recruitment advertising companies who will begin to think a little bit outside the box.
Yeah, because somewhere the difference should be, I think, in the cultural thing in the company. Not in the end, the money is so thin as you can think of. So it's
the culture is actually a very interesting one because the companies in China are failing to actually create a company culture. Because the retention is so low, you need, in order for a good culture, you need to have the old guy there who's been in the company for 10 years who can direct you in the right way and say, okay, no, that's not the way that we work in this company.
So do you say that when you are able to get this culture there, then you are a successful company?
I think if some companies, it's one of those spiraling things. You have to do so many different things to get this right. But most companies are actually going this way. They're just competing on salary. And that's just a very fast way to go this way. It's the minimum entry. But I think a lot of times if you compete on the career development that you have on the table for the candidate, then you get them on board. And they're willing to accept the lower, let's say the lower salary, or the non-expansion of salary. Because they see, they're the smart ones who see that if I work for this company for 2 years, by the time I finish, I'll be one of the best quality directors in China. I'll know all the tools, I know Six Sigma, I know whatever it is, all the various 5S and so on. Those kind of people are the right people for you. But to do that, you need a very, very extensive recruitment process. But again, the cost focus, people don't have the long, extended recruitment process. It's hard to find people, so they tend to, I think they tend to compromise.